Hi everyone, Ashley here. I just wanted to do a quick follow-up on my article that I just posted called Zoho Email Deliverability 2024. Although it says Zoho Email Deliverability, it actually applies to anyone who's using a business email address. So if your email address ends at yourbusinessname.com or .co.uk, whatever it is, you are impacted by this. Basically, Yahoo and Google have introduced new security standards which require everyone with a business email address who's sending emails from a business email address to adhere to. So there's 3 records that you need to set up. These records are called SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. These are basically little text files that sit on your DNS settings. So your DNS settings are normally stored on your control panel for your domain provider. So your domain provider is whoever you bought your web address from, essentially. So that's where you add these, unless there's kind of an exception to this, unless you're using something called a content delivery network. And that is a service which takes copies of your website and it puts them in different locations around the globe, different data centers around the globe, so they're closer to the people who are accessing them. So rather than someone in Asia connect to a website which is hosted in the UK, there can be a copy of the website in Asia, and then it's quicker. It means the website loads quicker. It's quite a common practice. The most common one that I know of is called Cloudflare. And if you are using one of those services, that's normally where you update your DNS settings. So with that said, what are SPF, DKIM, and DMARC records? They are basically 3 different things. SPF is a list of, let's say, a list of service providers, or a list of companies that are, let's just call it a list of service providers, who you give permission to send emails on your behalf. So if you're using MailChimp and people are receiving emails from you and they say from ashley@nexusimprovement.com, then you have to have in your SPF record that MailChimp is authorized to send those emails. The same if you're using Zoho CRM or Zoho Bookings or any of the Zoho suite of tools which send emails using your email address. Even if you're using Gmail or Outlook to send emails, because it's coming from your business email address, you also have to have them included in your SPF record. So your SPF record is basically a list of companies that are allowed to send emails on your behalf from you. The next one, DKIM, is basically like a digital signature. I should say as well, actually, you're only allowed 1 SPF record. The DKIM record is like a digital signature, and you typically have 1 of those records for every provider that is sending emails on your behalf, or sending that you're using to send emails. And that acts as like, it's almost like a wax seal on an old letter. If the wax seal was broken, then you'd know that someone had tampered with the letter. And that's how the mail servers receiving your emails will react. They'll check this record on your server, and if it matches the email that they've received, you don't see this signature in there in the email. It's like it sits in the what's called the header of the email, so it's just read by the machines. But if they don't match, then it thinks, okay, someone might have interfered with this, might have intercepted this email, or it might not even be legitimately from you. So that stops that. And then the last one there, DMARC, this is basically your policy. It's you telling the mail servers receiving emails from you, or potentially that should be from you, if something doesn't add up, if the signature doesn't match, if someone's not on the list, how do you want them to react? Do you want them to put your email into spam? Do you want them to reject it altogether? And how do you want that reported back to you? So they're the 3 records. Like I said, this sounds quite complicated, but they're actually just little pieces of text, and you get those from the provider that you're using. So for example, I use Zoho CRM, so I can go to the email settings in Zoho CRM. Let's just go here for a second. I can go to emails, and at the top here, there's an option called email deliverability. And on there, I can add a domain. I first need, this is Zoho's process, obviously, you put in the email address with the domain that you want to use, verify the email address, and then it will take you through the steps of creating those SPF records and DKIM records. So basically, they are giving me that text file that I need to use. There is a kind of a little exception to that, in that the SPF record, like I said, can only have one. You can only have one SPF record. What happens with that is every provider you use will give you the full record, and in that record you'll see that it says include : and then almost like a web address in there, which is linked. It's basically identifying them, so it might say zohomail.com or something like that. If you want to add another one, say I want to add Gmail, then after that include, I would add a space, and rather than paste in the whole thing that Gmail gave me, I'd just take the bit of their record that says include : Gmail, I don't know what their one is, Gmail spf.com, and I'd put that in. No commas or anything, just a space. So it would say include, comma, Zoho, space, include, : Gmail, essentially, space, and then whatever the next part of the record is. So that's just to give you a little insight. I mean, it's different for every service how you set this up. I'll try to show you on mine here. So this is the service provider I use, WPX, as part of my hosting, and I can go into their DNS settings and I can create a new record, and it gives me some options here. They actually have a separate option for SPF and a separate option for DKIM, but typically I've seen in the past that you would set these up just as text records. But don't get too worried, because all of these are just little text, pieces of text once you create them. So I'll click on text. In the host, it varies from provider to provider. In here you can normally put @ or in my case it says here leave blank if you want the default value, so I'm just going to leave that blank. Then in the value or target, you can just put in there you can paste in there the text that your service provider gave you. So that's maybe your SPF record. If you don't have a separate SPF records type, you'd paste in your SPF record or your DKIM record or your DMARC record text in there. And then the last thing is TTL, which is something to do with refresh, like how quickly it gets onto the network. On mine, it says just leave it blank for the default value, so that's what I'll do. But if there are options there, just pick the lowest number, and that will be the fastest to upload or to refresh across the network. And then save the record, and you're done. So I'm just showing you there my one. Everyone's is going to be different, and that's my domain provider. So that's what you'll have to do. I also actually found another really handy tool called mxtoolbox.com, and you can go onto there and they've got a DMARC checker tool, and you can put in your domain and you can look up, and I think it does the other ones as well, SPF and the other things, but you can put your domain in there and look up and see, have you got that record, just in case you're unsure. So I'll put a link to that as well. Just going down then in the rest of my email, the other thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to have a spam rate of less than 0.3%. So that means if you're sending emails and people are clicking the report as spam button, that means that you're getting a black mark against your name every time, or your domain is getting a black mark against it. So if those black marks get up to 0.3%, I guess they do it on a rolling set time period, and the volume of emails that you've sent maybe. So if you end up with a score of 0.3%, then your emails are going to start going into the spam folder automatically. So to avoid that happening, you just have to make sure that you're very targeted with who you're sending emails to. If you're sending just emails to everyone in your address book and it's completely irrelevant to 90% of them, then people are going to hit spam. So it's just about sending emails that add value for people. So if you can do that and you don't spam people, then people won't hit the spam button and you won't have to worry about that. And then the last thing here is, if you are sending mass marketing emails from an online service, then you need to make sure that there's a one-click unsubscribe link. If there's a link that people click and it takes them to a page and it says these are your topics and you can choose which topics you want to unsubscribe from, that's not going to cut it. Basically, that's a red flag to these new security policies. So again, probably your emails will end up in spam. It must be just a one click, you're gone from the list. So typically, if you're using a reputable platform like Zoho Campaigns or MailChimp or anything like that, it's in their interest that your emails don't go into spam. So therefore, they probably already have some of these things in place. They may well have got you to set up an SPF record and a DKIM record and those kind of things already, just as part of their setup process. But when it comes to the one-click unsubscribe, I know, for example, Zoho Campaigns, it just adds it in the footer of the email. I can't change that. I can't take it away. It's just the default. You just have to have it there. So they've kind of got me covered on that. So that's it. I just wanted to share that with you just in case you're feeling confused, and maybe you're more confused after watching this video, but it might help someone out there. So I just thought I'd share it. That's it for now. Talk to you in the next one. Bye for now.